Right. One of these was the first form of irrigation management. Shovel cuts through the channel banks. It's pretty much all anyone ever had for years. I don't think there's any 4-inch pipes here. Then we went to 6-inch clay pipes, terracotta, clay pipes. Had one of those plastic 6-inch cups. And that's how you'd stop the water. Pull them out, water, put them back in when you're done. They did make 4-inch ones. They also made 9-inch ones. The 9-inch ones were an absolute pain in the arse to get the buckets out of, because they literally were a bucket. And breaking the seal and pulling the bucket out in the channel with a fair head of water on it was a nightmare. Concrete around them was also a nightmare, because the abbeys would just go around the edge of the concrete. Sand worked alright. A bed of sand, full length, except over summer the channels on the sub-country would dry out and there would be cracks and a little gap, and next thing all it took was a little gap to wash the sand out, and that was the end of it. So it went from them to the Padmans, which we'll go and have a look at the older ones. Right, this is my pile of older Padmans. These B1s were up on the bays I was watering this morning originally. The only issue is with a high flow rate you cannot water one bay at a time, and it is very hard to get them to run evenly if you're doing multiple bays, especially when there's different heights. So they got replaced with B3s. There's a dead B3, a couple of dead B3s over here. Generally they die getting dug out. They're a lot deeper than that these days, but that gives you an idea of concrete below the ground. Like I said, the bigger ones are a lot deeper than that. Very first ones I put together by hand and dug the very first ones in by hand. Certainly wouldn't do that now. Get a backhoe to come in and do it. I still backfill them by hand, but be buggered if I'm digging a fucking trench for, you should see some of the heights of the new ones. You'd never dig a trench that deep, but anyway. So I'll show you the bigger ones over the other place that haven't gone in comparison to these. But in the meantime, we'll have a look at the different versions of timers. It's the original gas strut ones, original timers. then that would open, obviously with that down. And that would shut it to close it. Little chain there which would pull this one back up. The only issue with them is single gas struts weren't really strong enough. They were right for those smaller stops, and even though they were 24 hours, both clocks went off at the same rate, whereas they went to double gas strut timers. It was electronic, which probably will work. You set your time to open, and then you set your duration, however long you wanted it. Cancel. Cancel. They were right, but they were prone to tripping as well because of the mechanism inside. Did have pneumatic ones originally, which relied, the very first ones I put in, which relied on an air line running down the paddock with an upside down 9-inch bucket buried in the ground with a bit of perforated tubing to let the water in. They were dead set useless because the airbags inside the actual units would heat up during the day and they would trip all by themselves anyway. So these are the current version that I'm running. Same sort of setup, except a lot of the time you don't have to worry about putting a T2 in, you just press the time to start. Red light on there, and then they rely on the bay monitor unit down the bottom of the bay to send a radio signal back and tell this one to shut and the next one to open. Except, as you can see, this bastard won't shut. By the radio anyway, it'll still work as an actual timer. Actually, I think that one was fixed. One over the other places, the dead one. That's the poor one I had to cannibalise the other day, because this one had an issue with its aerial, which no, it didn't break, but what it did, it broke bit hard to sleep through that, isn't it? Yeah, it broke that wire. It would still sort of technically work, but I thought, yep, I'll replace the aerial, piece of piss. I'm being visited by mice. Except that this was spinning inside this piece. It just spins. It won't grip into that. So I had to cut the fucker off, and I thought, right, I'll replace it with one out of them, but no, they have a square hole rather than a round hole here. Rather than a round one, it's a little square one. So I thought, just to be safe for the time being, took the top off the blue one, swapped it with the yellow one, opened this up, and there's a dip switch in there. So I set the switches the same and all good, it works. So that'll do for the time being until I can either get another one of them, or if I can't, it'll just have to do, and I'll have to get over the OCD part of a blue top on a yellow bay monitor. Effing mice. Oh. So the alarm was the mate to the red Dalek, as he is affectionately known. It's the orange Dalek. Why is that? So, yeah. These ones will be the upgraded versions. You can either use them as bay monitors, or they'll control multiple, well, they'll control the newer timers as well. So anyway, we'll go change this water. The old versus the new. This was my water wheel, one of the two on this channel. It used to be over there where the new outlet is. You would not believe how hard it was to get them to actually agree to put it in my channel. That little spot there used to have a meter on it. That would count the rotations of the wheel. That's how they determined how much water you were getting. One rotation for a 24-hour period, because we had to, it was 24 hours that you, well, we don't stop watering at night or on weekends or whenever, just because it's not office hours. Once you start, you go until you finish, pretty much. So that turns for a 24-hour period, and if that was doing one revolution a minute, it would be equivalent to 1.2 megs per day flow rate. So if that was doing 8 revolutions a minute, that would be the equivalent of 10 megalitres a day. Now these structures were supposedly good for up to 15 megs, but I've never seen a wheel do 15 megs. That'd be, what, 12 revs. That's pelting out some bloody water if you're doing that. The flume gates that they can retrofit into these structures, which if you only wanted a 15 meg flume gate, they retrofitted them into here. They can do 15 megs, but not a wheel, not really. The door at the back was how they regulated the flow. Push it in or pull it up. That alters the flow rate. There's a little block of wood at the back. You wedge that in and that holds it. These had been around since 1910, so it was well over 100 years. This irrigation scheme's only been going since the 40s, late 40s. So, oh well, the reason I wanted my wheel in my channel, apart from the fact that we paid for it, was because this channel goes two ways. I can water both directions at the same time. That one does pretty much all of that section of the farm, whereas this one goes to the pump at the dairy, which does all of the back section. Now the best thing about the wheels, we just call them wheels, not fucking Deathridge wheels, just wheels. You get the sun on them or you're driving past, it's pretty easy to look over and see that your wheel was going and hadn't snagged on something. These new ones, not so easy. So that's a maxi flume, 30 meg a day capacity. Rubicon flume gate. Current flow is 14.2 megs. Volume used is 151. At the moment. The worst thing about these ones, yeah, they give you a greater flow, but I have had a dirty great lump of willow tree come and sit right over the bloody door there and block half the flow off. Now, because it measures the difference in the height of the water, that's how it measures the flow, rather technically. It still reckons it was doing the flow rate that it should have been when it was nowhere near that. So, hence the bit of mesh which catches all the fucking crap, unfortunately, but it also stops bubbles. Never had that problem with the old wheels, because if something got caught in it, the wheel would just stop. And well, the main problem with that was the channel could overflow if you're the only one watering on that channel and there's no escape on it. I've had some pretty high channels along here in the past. It's not uncommon for turtles to get caught under wheels, whether that be the turtle's fault or whether that be someone else's fault shoving a turtle under it to sprag the wheel. Another thing they did, they make sure they took my meter off because they didn't want me to be able to check up on them and say your outlet isn't accurate, because they claim these Deathridge wheels, water wheels, were so inaccurate that's why it had to all be upgraded. And yet the northern basin irrigators don't even have meters or anything on half of their bloody pumps that they suck the water out of the friggin' rivers with. So yes, old, new. Old, yeah, maintenance. Runs in wooden bearings. Occasionally, like very, very occasionally, in the off season, the channel attendants would come around and lift the wheel out and might replace the bearings. That's those two blocks, and there's a wooden bearing in there. Those things, yeah, they're going to cost a fortune, considering they're like 40 grand to install. They've got lithium ion batteries or some fucking deep sea marine batteries or something in them, solar powered. Are they going to last 100 years like one of these potentially can if it's looked after? Yeah, I doubt it. It'll be as cheap to replace as putting a new wheel in when it rusts out. Yeah, I doubt it. Anyway, it's supposedly advances in technology for you. Now that's our supply channel, Berrigan 4A. This channel is capable, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, used to be 6 farms with water on here. Each outlet was capable of 15, apart from my big one's 30, so it was 105 meg a day, which the channel is capable of more than that flow rate, as opposed to what you see on Bales Hay Farm and Ranch video with his pissy little ditch. So now we'll just zip up the road and have a look at the Berrigan main. Right. Used to be a walkway along there, and the slots in the concrete. That's where the drop boards used to go in, and that would be what would regulate the flow. I'd either pull out or put more drop boards in to build the water up, or let more water downstream, and that would alter your height between the two sides of the channel. Their pile upgrade thing, they put in new regulators. This is the Berrigan main. Comes off the Mulwala Canal at the drop. So all of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all of those dozen outlets there, regulator parts, have been replaced by 5 flume gates. Oh, a couple of big carp someone caught. And that's Berrigan 4A channel entrance there. Cherry grove over the other side, citrus farm up there, corn there. Bit of a wide diversity. Yeah, and the depth of that channel, can't stand up in the middle, it's over your head, so it's a good 6 foot deep at least. Solar powered, all remotely operated. Same with our outlets now. So that water is close to 3/5 of the way down that bay anyway. Calf heifers. Soft-sown barley. Came up on the rain, watered a couple of times. Wish it hadn't come out in head, but unfortunately we're waiting for the trencher to turn up to put the pipes in so we could get stock water in there, and that took forever. So I couldn't get them in there any earlier, even if I wanted to, which I did want to. Well, maybe not them, but the other lot anyway. So we'll run the red Dalek over now, drop him over here so that you know when this one's gone off. A lot of spraying to do later on. Once the clover and the ryegrass get going a bit, just don't need the rest of this shit to get going as well. Needs a good drink. Tend to try and leave it 10 days normally if it doesn't rain between first and second waterings, 10 days to 2 weeks. Then you can go maybe a little bit longer between. Kind of depends. I reckon this bloke won't be shockingly late this afternoon anyway. It'll do till we hear from him. I think that's more than enough. Go back up this way a bit further. These chatterboxes do tend to, the water goes past them a fair way before you get the alert on the app. You'll get the text message before you get the alert through the app as well, but you can't have both activated, because if I try and have it send me a text message, then the app won't go off. Well, with the old software anyway. I don't know whether they've fixed it with their new release their app people were working on, but certainly was a pain in the bum the other way. So I find it easier just to have them both on the app and not receive text messages from them. The other pain in the bum thing is if you happen to be on the phone at the time, you won't hear the alarm go off. So the only way you can sort of, if you've got a rough idea what time you think they might, you've just got to check the app, or it might come up on your home page that it's gone off, but it won't actually trigger the alarm in your ear while you're talking to somebody. Go and run, you bastards. Certainly not starving anyway. Kind of handy having that self-sown barley. Gives you somewhere to put them while you're getting everything else started. So in the future I might be dropping a couple of paddocks of wheat in early. Grazing wheat. And that'll give us the opportunity, or give me the opportunity to get them off onto other paddocks with a bit of feed in it, whilst you're getting the rest of the sub started. Now they're all going to chase me naturally, just because they can. Shut these couple. Looks like we're going to go and have a look at those big patterns while we're over there, aren't we? Yeah, not a fan of these things. This here is another weak point. They think that's a good idea. It is until it actually pulls through the cable and breaks it. So I got extra bits and bobs, rollers and whatnot from Padman. Stops last November, October, November, whenever the hell it was. Just haven't, I don't think I need time and winch brackets on these, because it doesn't take long enough to water them to justify putting timers on them. Fix up the main outlet would be the best thing. Yeah, put a roller on the bloody thing. Instead of creating a pinch point. Like seriously, how fucking hard's that? But their one piece stops with wings with a floor in it. How the hell do you backfill underneath them? Tell me that. Seriously. Cheap, nasty. uneconomical to transport compared to the Padmans. There's only a couple of things I like about them. One is the winch that bolts on. That is a good idea. Second good idea is the lip on the door. It pushes the flap tight. That is a good idea because the Padmans, you can have issues with them flaps folding over. Fucking barley grass. Didn't sow any ryegrass in here, so I'll be able to spray all that out. Just wondering what that noise was. Tractor coming up the road. They're the bigger Padmans, and they're still only E series, E6. They are probably double the height of what those B series ones were. So that just gives you a bit of an idea.